And I think, you know, your case is like so many cases. You know, the Labour Party sort of turned into like a 21st century version of the Stasi in certain circumstances, you know. I mean, the whole of the regional officers during the 2016 election were spending their entire days trawling social media to see, for the new members, to see if anybody had posted anything which could vaguely be used as it was vaguely critical or something like that. People being stopped from voting by virtue of the fact that they'd shared something from the Green Party. Well, I've got a lot in common with the Green Party. I mean, I think the Green Party members, I'd like to see them join us, but I've got more in common, I've got to say, with Caroline Lucas on many issues than I have with a lot of people in the PLP. So it's not surprising many members see certain things that the Green Party say and think, well, I agree with that, and they share it, and then they were stopped from voting. But yours is a much more sinister thing, and you're right on that. And, you know, we need to implement the Chakrabarti recommendations. I think, frankly, our response has been really poor. We've tried to reason with people who are completely unreasonable. And every concession that we've made has just been taken. We'll have that, and then we want some more. And then another concession is made and think, right, thanks very much indeed, we'll have that, and we want some more. Right, we've got Ken Livingstone, right, we want the next person. Yeah, we've got Mark Wadsworth out of the way, right, we want the next person. Jackie Walker, get rid of her. Get rid of Chris Williams, they're after me as well, you know. Well, ultimately what they want to do is topple Jeremy. Yes. They will not be satisfied until either Jeremy's stepped down, died, or has been removed. And you cannot reason with people like that. You just can't. And so all sorts of absurd accusations are made against people. We've said we've spent the summer months defending Jeremy against accusations that he's a bigot, that he's a racist. I mean, how absurd. It's like we are living in a George Orwell novel, 1984. We've got the Ministry of Truth. We've got, you know, doublespeak, black-white, you know, black is white, you know, good is bad. And what they're doing is they're indulging in a phrase or a tactic, and there's a phrase for it, which I've never heard of before, but it's a tactic which is being used against Lula in Brazil, where they're tying them up in so much litigation, should I say, legal actions. And that's what they've done to Lula, you know, and obviously they've locked him up now. I think if they could lock up Jeremy, they'd do that as well, obviously, you know. And they're tying him up, and that's what they're trying to do with us. They're trying to bog us down. Thousands of these bloody things have gone in, and most of them are just absurd. People who are dedicated anti-racist. Mark Wadsworth, for Christ's sake. I supported Mark. I went and gave evidence for him. I went to the hearing with him and gave evidence in person, gave him a character witness and went in with him. There was nothing, literally nothing, no evidence that would stand up. There was an accusation of anti-Semitism, but they withdrew that. They couldn't, even that kangaroo court couldn't make that stand up. And you know what they expelled him for bringing the party into disrepute? For bringing the party into disrepute, what for? Asking a question at a press conference. That's all he did. And it was a press conference, bearing in mind, it was a press conference to launch the Shami Chakrabarti's inquiry into or report into anti-Semitism and other forms of racism. I don't know if you've seen the video, but Mark got up and said, look, if a serious... Well, first of all, he called out an MP who was liaising with the Daily Telegraph, and that was just a matter of fact. It's like if you were there now talking, you were a Daily Telegraph journalist, and I said, well, he's working hand in glove with them, he's passing information to him. Well, you're just observing something, aren't you? So he observed that, and then he went on to say, word to the effect, look, if we're serious about if we're serious about diversity, I think he was saying, something along those lines, and tackling racism, we've got to do better than this, because a lot of Labour Party people in there. He said, look around this room. He said, I'm about the only black or brown face in the room. Yeah. And we've got to do better than that. But he was being shouted down. People were shouting anti-Semitism at him. Kevin Schofield, former political editor of The Sun, now edits Politics Home, was sitting behind Ruth Smeeth, who ran out in floods of tears, because he shouted out anti-Semitism at an anti-Semitism press conference. And then they're all trying to shout him down. Bear in mind, a room full of white people shouting down a black guy. Yeah. I mean, what about the optics of that? And then when he went to the hearing, we had 40 or 50 white, privileged parliamentarians marching down to try and influence a hearing, a disciplinary hearing into a black guy. I mean, it looks like it would like a scene out of Mississippi Burning. It was disgraceful. Absolutely despicable, in my opinion. And so we've got all that kind of stuff going on. And it's a bloody outrage, it really is. I feel really angry about it. And, you know, the party's just been bogged down The code of practice that they talk about doing is actually, I'm not sure if they've accepted this yet, but I think this is where we'll end up, where there will be sanctions against people who make malicious accusations. We've got to have that. We absolutely have to have that. And I know people are up in arms about that, but I think that will close down some of the, because we've had bloody thousands of them. I mean, it's just appalling. And they, you know, with a relatively small staff, you just can't cope with it. And then meanwhile, people, obviously I think you're back in the party, but other people who are now, they've been suspended for like years. I mean, it's just a scandal, and we just can't have that. And we've got to get a better system in place. And I think that might be the way forward. I think there's a recognition, but there has been, you know, people have been fearful, people have been frightened, people have been definitely chilled free speech, no doubt about it. I'm about the only person that continues to speak up. And even, I say even me, as if I'm anything special, but, you know, I'm a little bit cautious at times, you know. And, you know, I'm not saying I want to be gung-ho, and I don't want to upset or offend anybody, absolutely not. It's the last thing I want to bloody do, you know. Look, we're on the left, aren't we, by and large? We're decent people. We care. We don't want to hurt people. We want to stand up for people. And I think, you know, this is a really pernicious and effective attack, because it's in our DNA to be anti-racist, isn't it? And you're attacking, you know, the very foundation of everything we believe in by implying that we are racist or anti-Semitic. And I've got to say, when I went down to... I was asked to go to speak by the Jewish Voice for Labour outside the Labour NEC when NEC met to deliberate on the IHRA examples. And there was a gathering of about 200 people, and there was another gathering of about half a dozen people who got a load of attention on the media, but literally there was only about half a dozen of them. And of the 200 or so that were there opposing the IHRA examples, including obviously the JVL, a large proportion, I couldn't say that they were mainly from the Jewish community, but I do know for a certain fact a large proportion, including Orthodox Jews and secular Jews, and as I say, obviously people from the JVL and so on, were there supporting that, supporting Jeremy. So, you know, so the Board of Deputies and the so-called self-appointed Jewish Leadership Council don't speak for the entirety of the Jewish community. They absolutely do not. Yes, they speak for some, and there's no doubt about that, and some have been who maybe are not politically, you know, active, and they see this stuff, and they might think, with good reason, if you're not in the know, you might think, bloody hell, the Labour Party is full of a bunch of fascists and racists, etc. So we've got to work hard, I think, to try and you know, get beyond this. But it's supposed to be the inevitability of you know, because this attack has got some traction, and so they've kind of run with it, and they've run with it, and they've run with it, and all the other ones about the IRA and all that kind of stuff. That's not to say there are no examples of anti-Semitism. I'm sure there are. But interestingly, even Chuka I'll shut it, I know I keep going on too long, but even Chuka in an article, I think it was on Labour List, you can look it up, from a few years ago. I think it might have been when he was writing maybe something in response to, or a report about that Home Affairs Select Committee report that looked into anti-Semitism, if you may remember seeing it. And you may have read the article even, but Chuka said that people say, I'm paraphrasing now, but it's words to the effect of, people say that the Labour Party is institutionally anti-Semitic. Yeah. And he says, this is Chuka, I disagree with that, because in 20 years of membership of the Labour Party, Chuka, I've never witnessed a single incidence of anti-Semitism. That's Chuka saying that. Yeah. So likewise, I mean, I've been a member 42 years, and I've never witnessed, you know, anti-Semitism. I've witnessed other forms of racism inside the Labour Party, I regret to say. Very, very few and far between. None are acceptable, obviously, but I have witnessed that. I've not witnessed the other. But again, I'm not saying it's never happened, obviously. And where it does, we've got to call it out. We've got to close it down. Anti-Semites, racist, they're not, no place whatsoever inside the Labour Party. There can be zero tolerance, absolutely. But let's not, you know, let's not kind of inflate it and imply that it's a major problem when it isn't. And as I say, it's clear that people have weaponised this, and it's not me saying that, it's people in the Jewish community have said that. When even people like Chuka has acknowledged that, he's never witnessed a single incidence of anti-Semitism. And where people have, I think, very mischievously used the appalling abuse which you see online, and then they've conflated that with Labour Party members and said, this is all Labour Party members. Well, where's the evidence of that? Yeah. You know, if you've got any evidence that somebody online is doing that, well, let's have it and let's kick them out. Yeah. But I tell you what, a lot of them are not. I mean, some of them might be on the left, but I also know that some are on the right, the far right, and they're using this to try and sow division. It's that whole kind of divide and rule thing. But anyway. Yeah.